Games from the Resident Evil franchise often include extra modes to play separately from the main story. Over the years, Resident Evil has featured a variety of game modes for players to try. From Ghost Survivors to Raid mode, Capcom has created numerous forms of extra content to keep players logging hours, even after they play the game, and know what happens in the story. Alternatively, some extra modes from Capcom increase the difficulty of the game, instead of adding a mini-game in a way unique from the general settings of easy, normal, and hard. Resident Evil is a survival horror franchise that hasn't been afraid to take risks when it comes to trying new styles. The majority of Resident Evil games are single-player, except for a few like Resident Evil 5, which include co-op. The problem with single-player games is the limited replayability they have, and that's where the addition of extra modes can help extend the playtime that players get from a game. From Mercenaries mode to Tofu Survivor, Resident Evil includes extra modes that range from serious to humorous. Some modes change the difficulty of the game for another playthrough, like Invisible mode in Resident Evil Revelations 2 making the story harder, or Infinite mode in multiple games making it easier with unlimited ammo. Other modes, like Raid mode or Mercenaries, take place separately from the title in which they appear, but feature characters from it. Play as Resident Evil hero or villain in Mercenaries mode. Mercenaries mode debuted with Resident Evil 3. Nemesis and has since been featured in several following games. It's available as part of every mainline RE game after RE3, except for RE7. The most recent game, RE Village, has Lady Dimitrescu joining Mercenaries mode with its release as part of the Gold Edition in October to eviscerate enemies with her sharp claws alongside other characters like Chris and Heisenberg. Mercenaries is one of the more popular extra game modes, but it also offers the most variety. It even received its own spin-off game, Resident Evil: The Mercenaries 3D. For the games in which Mercenaries mode isn't available by default, it's unlocked through completing the main game. The details of the mode change slightly with different titles, but the general objective is to earn points by killing enemies in a time limit without dying. Fighting Resident Evil monsters with the player's choice of character and stage mix-up each round make it interesting enough to play more than once. A Resident Evil debugging tool stars in Tofu Survivor. Tofu is a secret character in both Resident Evil 2 and its remake, but it wasn't intended to remain in the game at launch. Tofu was designed to test unit collision, but in the end it was given a campaign that parodies the fourth Survivor mode. In RE2, Tofu is unlocked by beating the Leon A and Claire B scenarios 3 times with an A rank and completing the fourth Survivor scenario. However, in the remake, players just need to complete the fourth Survivor to unlock Tofu Survivor. Additionally, the remake offers more than one type of Tofu character for players to choose. Playing as Tofu in Resident Evil 2 takes away some horror from the game, but the experience is refreshing after surviving Raccoon City's outbreak as Leon, Claire, and Hunk. Raid mode allows for company op fun in RE Revelations 1 and 2. While the RE Revelations games are not part of the mainline series, the raid modes they include give players the chance to kill enemies with friends in online co-op. Characters have different skills and can be leveled to improve them. Raid mode is, like Mercenaries, focused more on action than on survival horror. In Raid mode, players clear stages by breaking the BSAA emblem or gold coin at the end in order to earn experience and unlock more content for the mode. The biggest downside of Raid mode is that it can be repetitive after players unlock all available content for it. The stages and enemies included in them don't change, which can become stale in terms of gameplay. Having a choice of Resident Evil characters to play helps Raid mode, but the amount of content it has that can be unlocked is what gives it the most playtime for players who have completed the main story and want more. Invisible Enemy gives Remake players a new challenge. After beating Remake on normal or hard, players will unlock Invisible Enemy mode for both Chris and Jill. As the name implies, all the enemies are invisible in this mode, including bosses, which adds another layer of difficulty since players won't see the enemies until they are already mid-attack. Even though this mode doesn't change the story or the game aside from the enemies not being visible, it's a unique way to increase the difficulty of Resident Evil beyond the usual settings. Revelations 2, in addition to raid mode, features an invisible enemy mode, but it has an added element to make it a bit easier than in Remake. Mora can reveal enemies using her flashlight, and Natalia can see the aura of enemies in the same manner that she can see the invisible creatures that she encounters in the regular game mode. When Mora or Natalia point out an enemy, it will only be revealed for a moment, so players need to be quick with switching characters to kill them. This mode doesn't offer significant variety, but it does present a new challenge for players to try after they finish the game with visible enemies. Resident Evil games are a mix of horror and action to create the survival horror genre for which the franchise is known. However, the Resident Evil series also includes extra modes in its games that range from nonsensical to challenging, or they might just add a way to enjoy the games with friends, like with raid mode and some versions of Mercenaries. Single-player games can lack replayability, but Capcom tends to get creative with these modes in order to keep players engaged after they finish the main campaign. Since Mercenaries received its own game, raid mode could be suitable for a new spin-off game as well and lead players through locations from multiple Resident Evil games, forming unlikely alliances between characters to clear the stages.